So, we all know about that Texas legislation, right? The one that basically allows you to bounty hunt if a woman gets an abortion, and it's real fucked up. So you want to know what the most Chad move a bunch of legislators have been doing? A Chad move that could backfire, mind you, but a Chad move nonetheless. Making literal parity legislation for the purpose of showing how radically stupid the Texas bill is. Now, I don't know if any of it will actually go through, but we will see. But before we get into any of that, let's go ahead and get into the fan art section for today. This is from Avenger138. They said they made a Suris on Hero Forge, and they have shown it right here. And honestly, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. I have never been good at making anything halfway decent on Hero Forge. But yeah. With that said, thank you for your fan art submission. If you want your fan art shown on a future episode, the best way to do so is to drop it into the Discord channel, and then we will be able to showcase it here live on the stream. With that said, let's get right into today's video topic after rolling the intro. And now that the intro is done, let's go ahead and pop. So, this is Representative Christopher M. Rabb, and he has introduced a very controversial bit of legislation. Let's go ahead and take a look. So, as of October 4th, State Representative Chris Rabb has circulated a public memo promoting a forthcoming bill, inspired in part by Illinois State Kelly Cassidy's innovative Texas Act, which seeks to enforce reproductive responsibility among men through a series of means. So before we continue, let's take a look at the Texas Act, or at least the summation of it here. Kelly Cassidy filed Bill HB 4146, the Texas Act, the Expanding Abortion Services Act. The Texas Act seeks to affirm the steps Illinois has taken to ensure that our state remains a place where the full range of reproductive health services are available to all. And they're available to all people, including those who are forced to travel out of state from jurisdiction seeking to restrict access to abortion and other reproductive health care. The bill creates a civil right of action, enabling any person to bring a civil action against a person who commits an act of domestic violence or sexual assault, as well as anyone who causes an unintended pregnancy or any person who enables those acts. It establishes a minimum $10,000 civil award to persons bringing the action, with $5,000 of that going into a newly created state fund to ensure that people who are forced to flee their homes, their home states, to seek reproductive health care have the ability to pay for that care in Illinois. When the Texas legislature, aided by the United States Supreme Court, declared open season on people seeking reproductive health care, it was clear to me that our state is in a unique position to reach out our hand and offer help to people from Texas and other states who seek to restrict reproductive rights and give them a safe haven. This was said by Representative Kelly Cassidy, who is a chief sponsor of the Reproductive Health Act establishing the fundamental right to reproductive health care in Illinois in 2019. If enacted, the fund would be managed by the Department of Health Care and Family Services and would be used to provide financial aid to women who may come to Illinois to seek reproductive health care in a safe and accessible way. The person found responsible for causing an unintended pregnancy, or a person committing an act of domestic violence or sexual assault, or someone who enabled those actions would be responsible for paying the damages. Wow! Imagine that. Gale Force, thank you very much for redeeming your points for an oh well. The measures in Texas is just one piece of the radical attempt to dismantle reproductive rights and access to reproductive health care across the nation. I'm proud to come from a state that will uphold the fundamental right for a woman to make the best decision for her own health, said Cassidy. When the legislature codified into law the Reproductive Health Act, we've ensured that the right to choose will remain in Illinois no matter what may happen with Roe v. Wade, or what other states may do in creating irresponsible and dangerous policies like Texas. So, basically, if I am reading this correctly, this says that a bill has been proposed that will essentially say that if you come to Illinois, you are guaranteed reproductive rights. You are guaranteed your right to an abortion. Your right to your bodily autonomy are 110% going to be fought for in that particular arena. Now, this also means that if you are found to be guilty of assault, then you are not only liable for punishment under the court of law like we normally would do in most other circumstances, but also you are liable for $10,000 in damages to the individual person. That is a giant kick in the teeth to people who want to assert their dominance over their female counterparts. Now, there is a thing to note with this bill. There are places, in fact, we actually covered one of them in an earlier video, that have very awkward, how can we say this? Very awkward views on women's consent. The idea that they think that marital rape is impossible because a woman is not allowed to not consent if they are married, therefore they cannot say no. This would mean that if you found yourself in that situation and you fled to Illinois, you could sue for damages there. And yeah, that's gross, but it is a part of several communities that we have covered on this channel. The NAFB being one of them. Now, we wanted to look at that legislation so we could take a look at Christopher Rabb's legislation. So let's take a look here. Rabb's bill would require men to get a vasectomy within 6 weeks of having their third child or their 40th birthday, whichever comes first. It would codify into state law a definition of wrongful conception to include when a person has demonstrated negligence toward preventing conception during intercourse. It would allow Pennsylvanians to take civil action for unwanted pregnancies against men who wrongfully conceived a child with them or who do not comply with the statute. And it would provide a $10,000 reward for reporting to the proper authorities those scofflaws who would not have complied with the statute in the allotted time frame. This would allow Pennsylvanians to take civil action against illegal inseminators. First of all, Gale Force, you are chaos, defined. Evidence being that you dropped 50,001 channel points while we are talking about forced insemination to make me say, ooh, woo. Of all times. Why? Why now? Why is now the time for ooh, woo? It's not. But Red Joker has come in repeating that as well. Infinity Rise, thank you for redeeming your points for an ada. And Cosmo, thank you very much for redeeming your points for an owo and bringing the proper balance back to the world. Now, let's continue back into the conversation about illegal inseminators. As long as state legislatures continue to restrict the reproductive rights of cis women, trans men, and non-binary people, there should be laws to address the responsibility of men who impregnate them. My sincere hope in introducing this legislation is that my colleagues in General Assembly consider the egregiously gendered double standard when it comes to curtailing reproductive rights, reproductive health care as it applies to women. Rabb's proposal comes in the aftermath of the de facto abortion ban that was just enacted into law in Texas. The bill introduced by Cassidy in Illinois would allow a person to bring a civil action against anyone who commits an act of domestic violence or sexual assault, as well as anyone who causes an unintended pregnancy or any person who enables those acts. We already went over that when we looked at Cassidy's bill. Within hours of its circulation in the memo, I have received some of the most hateful and threatening emails and voicemails over my 5 years in office, but I've also received the affirmation and support from people in and far beyond my district who hold reproductive rights I've never been good with this word. Sacrosanct? Sacrosanct. I'm not good with that word. Sacred. Not to mention the people who see the value in satire to raise awareness around serious issues such as this. The point of this bill is not to pass. The point of this is satire. And I sincerely hope this bill does not pass, because accidents happen, and yeah, sacrosanct? Sacrosanct. Okay, thank you. But also, Jesus, Jeebus. This is it is a bill that I hope never passes, because it is deliberately gendered. It only attacks one group of people, and it does so in a very, very blatant way. But that seems to be the point. That seems to be why it's engineered this way. And under normal circumstances, I would disagree with this bill the same way I've disagreed with other bills in the past that are also not meant to pass, but are there to say a statement. But we have a unique situation where the legal system has already failed Texas, and Texas is already stripping rights from women. So at this point, while I normally would disagree with these maneuvers, it's a bit like me disagreeing with somebody stabbing someone. I disagree with anyone stabbing someone else, but if you are in a position where somebody is trying to stab you and kill you, then I can't get mad when you stab back in self-defense. This is kind of the same thing for me right now, which I know I need to address that because there's going to be somebody in the comment section going, "Look at you! You're a fucking hypocrite!" And I'm just going to have to respond with, "Shut the fuck up, Karen." Alright, continuing on. Rab plans to hold a joint online town hall with Cassidy in the near future to discuss their respective bills and the importance of fighting for reproductive justice in state legislators and what that means for those who seek to protect bodily autonomy of all people. Rab said, "To each person who views this bill I've introduced as absurd, I'd urge you to apply equal scrutiny to laws that were put in place in Texas and right here in Pennsylvania, which enact paternalistic restrictions on the personal liberty of cis women, trans men, and non-binary individuals who have an unwanted pregnancy. What's good for the goose is good for the gander." Now, before we get into... I've already gone over my thoughts on this bill, but before we get into any conclusions for this bill, I want to point out that despite my disagreements with how the bill functions, because, again, if it were in any other circumstances, a parity bill like this I would be deeming as just a threat anyway, I want to show you an absolutely Chad move. And it makes me actually really like this representative a lot. Irrespective of any other things he's done, this was enough to just make me go, oh, I can actually like a politician. Newt Gingrich talked about this bill and said, "More far-left insanity! A Democrat state senator from Pennsylvania has introduced a new bill seeking to punish cisgender men in quotation marks, because I've never heard this word before. God damn it, I'm such a boomer. With forced sterilization if they have more than 3 children or once they turn 40 years old." And yeah, that is what the bill says. So, how did our representative here respond? "Your sister-in-law, Representative Kelly Cassidy, partly inspired me, Nudie. Hashtag snip snip." And all I have to say is that is the absolute most Chad as fuck response. Snip snip, Nudie. And I have nothing more to say there. Again, I do not like parody bills like this. I do not like the fact that we are even in a position where they have to be used. But we are in a position where they have to be used, so I can't really get mad at their use. Not in this situation. But with that said, I throw the conversation back to you guys. What do you think? How do you feel this bill will actually function? What do you think is going to happen with it? And do you think that the correct message is going to be sent? Or do you think this is going to be severely misunderstood by conservative outlets going forward? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know there as well. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. Follow over on Twitch if you haven't already. And as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here. Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. If you want access to behind-the-scenes content for the channel, please consider checking out my Patreon. I do weekly vlogs over there, where I give real-life updates to what's going on behind the scenes on the channel, stuff that you don't really get over here, and even on Twitch. Patreon also helps the channel's stability a whole lot. Without Patreon, I wouldn't be able to do this at all. Especially with the kind of content that I do, neither YouTube nor Twitch are the most stable sources of income. If you are a $20 and up patron, then you will be featured on the ending slides as shown in the beginning of the end credits. If you want to catch the streams where all this content comes from, then consider heading over to Twitch and following. And if you want to continue watching over here on YouTube, maybe consider clicking one of the end screen videos. And once again, I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me over on my channel. I wouldn't be able to do literally anything that I'm doing over here on YouTube without each and every one of you. So, thank you.